Shalom, and welcome to another episode of The Simpsons Did It. I'm your host, Steven Skolansky.
Ay caramba, and I'm your co-host, Robert Skolansky. I don't know why I said ay caramba, that's not Hebrew.
That is not even near close to Hebrew. That's Spanish.
Oy vey.
There you go.
Oy vey.
So if any of you guys are wondering why we're speaking a little Hebrew here, is because we're going to get a little Jewish with y'all.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
just a little.
Just a little bit. We get a little bit of insight today in Krusty the Clown and who his family is and how he grew up. So that's pretty cool. But before before we get into the episode, I just want to thank our listeners for starting to respond to our Fan Fridays and a lot of our posts that we do on Facebook. And recently, for season 2, episode 20, when I posted about the War of the Simpsons, I asked the question kind of in the synopsis of the podcast episode, have you ever been so drunk at your own party that you make a complete fool of yourself? And I was just doing that kind of just to intro the podcast on the website, but we got some fans replying. And so one of our fans, Brandy, she was like, yep. Drank 9 White Claws while playing a drinking game, then puked the rest of the night.
Ooh.
So there was that, and then
we got White Claws.
Then we got Mike, who is my 18th birthday. Parents went out of town. I got drunk, invited everyone I knew, passed out in a closet by 9 p.m. And then the cop showed up. Then the cop showed up and broke up the party.
Wow. That's a party.
Yeah, he kind of missed the rest of his party.
Yeah.
And then someone just put a comment, the teenage years. So people seem to have had a lot of fun having parties and at their own places, mind you, and taking it a step too far. So thank you guys for responding to a Facebook post. As you guys keep responding to Facebook posts, we'll talk about it on the podcast. So keep them coming.
And so this week's episode, as we alluded to, we're going to dive into Krusty and his background in season 3, episode 6, Like Father, Like Clown.
Or like son, but it's not son. It is like son, but he's a clown.
As we'll get into this episode, we'll talk about, if our parents were ever disappointed in our life choices. Because that's kind of what this is about. The air date was October 24th, 1991. So guess what, guys? Next week,
we got some Halloween, and we do have our special guest back for Halloween, Treehouse of Horror season, episode 2. Andy McElfresh will be joining us again for that episode. So get your brains out, get ready to absorb enormous amounts of Treehouse of Horror knowledge.
And get edumacated.
The
recap for this episode: at a dinner with the Simpsons, Krusty the Clown reveals he is estranged from his rabbi father. So right off the bat, we'll learn why he got estranged. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But the chalkboard gag this week: I will finish what I start.
My guess is it's supposed to be started, but Bart's not going to finish what he started.
Like his homework.
If
he actually starts it.
Yeah. I wonder what he started this time. Or didn't
finish?
And he didn't finish.
I
don't think you can go to detention for test taking.
What if you're cheating?
Cheating I think would be a detentionable offense, but then I think it'd be like something about cheating on the chalkboard.
Maybe he was supposed to do a project and he just didn't finish it.
Maybe. Or started a presentation of some kind and went completely off the rails and decided to not finish.
So once again, we have a different sax solo this week from Lisa. So we're kind of getting into that. As we said on our last podcast, I think we're in that midst of Lisa doing a different sax solo every week.
Yep.
Couch gag. All the Simpsons sit on the couch except for Bart who leaps into everyone's laps and annoys Homer.
That was a good one. I like that.
That was a good one. Yeah, because I rewatched it and I was like, yeah, Homer gets annoyed. Right? I'm surprised none of the other Simpsons got annoyed. I mean,
Bart did it pretty awesome. Like, it was like kind of like a crowd surf thing, just on their laps, and he did the whole like arm up on his forehead, like up on his head, and the nice little pose, the cool guy pose.
Yeah,
it reminded me of the pose I usually do in my Comic-Con group photos, because it's really funny. Yeah. And so we are welcomed into the Krusty the Clown show, where Krusty is throwing axes at Sideshow Mel. Now, I mean, if Sideshow Bob was there, I still think the axe thing would still be in there, but it would. I don't know if it'd be as funny because Sideshow Bob never liked stuff being thrown at him, but Sideshow Mel seems to just take it.
Yep.
And so the last axe, like Krusty's like lining it up, and he throws the axe and rails Sideshow Mel right in the forehead and knocks him out. That was great. I mean, the funny thing is he did hit every other axe. So
yeah. He's good at it. Maybe he did it on purpose.
Maybe. Do you think that axe was maybe meant to be... I would say like a rubber axe, and it was meant to be a joke. But if it knocks him out, I don't think it would have been.
If it's a hard rubber, it could still knock you out.
Yeah, maybe. Imagine if it was like a real axe, and it actually like went blade into his head. I don't know if that'd be allowed on the Krusty Clown show.
Probably not.
And so we get to see Corporal Punishment again, while he's holding Mel, knocked out, and Tina Ballerina, and Krusty ends his show with his sign-off lyrics, which I have for you. We've had lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of fun, but now the time has come to go. If this old clown has found dead in his bed tomorrow, I'd be in heaven still doing this show.
I mean, would Krusty the Clown go to heaven, though?
Yeah, so you could call. He gambles, smokes, drinks... has some ladies in the boudoir. Although he's not married, so I guess that wouldn't necessarily be a sin, right?
I mean, technically it is.
Yeah, I guess so. So, but yeah, I would say, I think he has a lot of sign-offs. I think he does a new one every episode, maybe. And so Krusty's walking, offset, and his assistant's there telling Krusty what a great show it was, sucking up to him. And that all he wants is some nicotine gum.
Because he's trying to quit smoking.
Apparently. Yep. And then the assistant tells Krusty all of his appointments that he has to do. He's like, cancel it. Cancel it.
Cancel it.
Cancel it. And then she also tells him about dinner with Bart. And Krusty's like, I don't know Bart Simpson. But which is so crazy. How can he not remember? I mean, that was like a turning point.
No, because the assistant reminded him that he was the boy that
kept him out of prison.
And we see a flashback, and he goes, and then he remembers him.
Well, I know, but how do you not? Okay, that is like a turning point in your life, going to prison, and this kid saves your life, basically saves your fate from going to prison. And how would you not remember that? But obviously, he does have a fond memory. He's like, oh yeah, cancel it. That was good. And so we do learn the assistant's name is Lois Pennycandy, which I'm guessing is a take on Money Penny from
probably
007, which if it holds true from last episode with the whole 007 reference, and now we get to this episode with a 007 reference, maybe Jake Hogan or Wallace Wolodarski had been watching some James Bond lately, and it's like, hey, you know what? We need to put a few names in here. And so then we flash back to the Simpson house where you see Maggie drinking out of Santa's Little Hubbard water dish, which
Marge just watches her.
Yep. Well, my kid has come close a few times to following in my dog's example of drinking out of the water dish or eating out of a food dish. Now, my kid every once in a while will go on his own plate and eat like a dog, and so
he's a kid.
Kids mimic things, and so. But so Lois Pennycandy calls the Simpsons, and she's talking to Marge, and she has to cancel for the 5th time. Man.
I do like the fact that Marge goes, "Oh, hi, Mrs. Moneypenny," and she goes, It's Miss Money. It's Miss Penny Candy. I can assure you.
Yeah.
Because as we kind of see in the scene when she's telling Marge that she has to cancel, that she has a thing for Krusty.
Yeah, we could definitely tell she has a crush on him.
Yeah, and so Penny Candy's excuse to Marge was that something last minute came up for Krusty, and we cut to a shot of Krusty cleaning out a shower of mildew, and he goes, "Oh, mildew. That's fine."
That's
After,
good
like,
enough.
Scrubbing for like two seconds. So then we cut upstairs to Bart getting ready for his dinner because he's unaware of the happenings. And he's putting on Krusty non-toxic cologne. The smell of the big top. Warning. Use in a well-ventilated area. May stain furniture. Prolonged use may cause chemical burns. I wouldn't want to use this cologne.
I don't know how this stuff made it past the FDA. And on the shelves.
Krusty paid him off.
Yeah, right.
They paid him off. So, Bart's all happy and he goes upstairs and he's whistling, and the Simpsons are, for some reason, all the Simpsons are sitting around the dining room table, or not the kitchen table.
Like an intervention, maybe?
Yeah, it seemed like it. And Marge breaks the bad news to Bart that Krusty isn't coming to dinner again. So then Bart is angry and he runs upstairs and he has stationery. Now, mind you, this is the third time we've seen stationery like this. From the brain of Bart Stationery.
And Bart has a brain, I guess?
Well, he has to. He's a living being.
Yeah.
Does he use it? No.
No. So
or he does, but for evil intentions.
Right. And so he's like, "Dear Krusty, this is Bart Simpson, Krusty Buddy number 16302, respectfully returning his badge. I always suspected that nothing in life mattered. Now I know for sure. Get bent. Bart Simpson."
And so he sends the letter to the TV station, and Penny Candy gets it and tells, Krusty that this little boy has lost faith in him. But I do like to point out, in her office, there are 2 pictures on the wall. One, Krusty is with the Beatles, and 2, another one where he's with Alfred Hitchcock.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Krusty is a good entertainer.
Yeah. And actually, before she tells him the bad news, I kind of skipped ahead. Krusty is in his office with a business card to call a sex hotline, and the number is 1-900-909-SEX-CHAT. And so he calls the party line, and the party line is just other lonely men, including Apu. And Apu's like, "Are you a hot woman?
Do I sound like a hot Oh my god! I don't know. I guess I've never called a sex hotline, but I didn't think they were like group rooms. Like, I always thought it was like a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah,
but that was really fun. I like just Apu, just in the room, like waiting for a hot lady to show. That does not seem like Apu to me. I mean, he's a lonely guy at a Quickie Mart for 24/7.
Yeah.
He must have had the night off. He must have had the night off. Sanjay must have taken over.
Yeah, Sanjay must have taken him.
And so Penny Candy barges in Krusty's office and demands that he reads the letter to Bart. Wouldn't you think, if you're, 1, have a crush on him, and 2, are his assistant, you would know that Krusty is illiterate?
And then I like how Krusty actually tries, is like,
And so it's like, you lost faith in this kid. You have to go. And
Bart lost faith in him.
Yep. And she's like, "I don't want to." And then Penny Candy slaps him across the face.
And she says,
"Yep." She's like, "I'll quit if Krusty doesn't, if you don't go." But he doesn't want to miss Schnapps Night at the Friars Club. I mean,
he's apparently, like, "Fine, I'll go, but I don't want to miss Schnapps Night at the Friars Club."
It's like he just has so many random dumb things to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's like he wants to forget life, as we'll come to allude. He just, it's been buried so deep in his brain that stuff like this, the sex chat, the gambling, the Schnapps Night at the Friars Club, I feel like it's all just to drown out things that are really affecting him.
Yeah.
And so the Simpsons wait in their living room for Krusty to show up, and Krusty knocks and does his laugh, and Homer goes, "Do you think it's him?"
No, Homer, it's the other clown you guys ordered to come to the house for dinner.
Well, he didn't order. It was okay. So the funny thing is, I think it was wasn't it supposed to be a thank you dinner for him?
Yes.
So, okay, that happened like a season and a few episodes ago. I feel like that dinner should have happened by now.
But Krusty keeps canceling.
Well, 5 times. I mean,
it's just a lot of times.
5 isn't that many in like a year and a half. I mean, if that's how time is affected in the town of Spring, since nobody ages, maybe time has no concept anymore.
Well, we know time has no concept in Springfield.
Yeah, I guess. He kind of rolls in the door, like he opens the door and kind of does the Willy Wonka like tumble roll, which I thought was kind of cool. That was a cool thing, and kind of lands on his butt, and Maggie just scurries behind Marge because she's scared. And he's like,
cute baby.
Cute baby. Stands up and goes. And then you hear another knock on the door, and it's Milhouse coming by unannounced. And he's like, Krusty the Clown. I didn't know you were going to be here. And then Bart says, just come in and drop the charade. And so Bart and Lisa insist that Krusty doesn't have to perform tricks because he's on his unicycle and stuff like that. And Krusty's like, oh, good. And then he pulls Mr. Teeny out, which I think is the first appearance of Mr. Teeny.
I think it's the first appearance of Mr. Teeny.
Yep, out of his bag, and tells him to go wait in the car. He's like, oh, but we could have seen a monkey.
I agree with Homer. You could have seen a monkey on roller skates.
On roller skates, no less.
I know. Yeah, Homer's disappointed you didn't get to see Mr. Teeny. I mean, I've brought this up numerous times to you, but I'm still disappointed we didn't get to see a penguin at your wedding.
Yeah, animals are fun.
Animals are fun. So they sit down to eat dinner, and Marge asks who wants to say grace, and Lisa suggests, let our guests do it. So Milhouse starts to say grace.
Yeah, right.
It's like, Milhouse, you're not the guest. And Bart slaps him. He goes, no, what? And Bart actually understood that he knew that Lisa meant Krusty, although he probably gathered that anyways because Krusty was their guest. So Krusty goes, well, I'm a little rusty, but let me give it a try anyways. So then he starts doing the Hebrew prayer for, when do meals.
And he did it pretty good. He's like, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Like he actually did it.
I mean, haaretz. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. They actually got 2 rabbis to consult on this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So pretty much all the Jewish stuff is pretty accurate because of the consultants, the rabbis they got to do this. So then
you mean the executive producers and the writers on the show are Jewish?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, as we'll get into a little bit, it seems like Krusty comes from an Orthodox background.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a little bit harder to probably get right than like progressive and Reform Judaism. So Homer, I like how Homer's like, he's speaking in a funny voice. And Lisa realizes that Krusty is speaking Hebrew and comes to the summation that Krusty is Jewish.
Yep.
And so I love how Homer goes, a Jewish entertainer? Get out of here.
Yeah.
And Lisa starts naming off different Jewish entertainers such as William Shatner and Mel Brooks. And I didn't realize, I think I knew William Shatner was Jewish because I think Sandler put him in one of his songs.
Yeah.
But Homer is surprised to learn that Mel Brooks is Jewish.
Come on. How could you not know Mel Brooks is Jewish?
Mel Brooks is probably one of the greatest Jewish entertainers on this planet.
Of all time.
I will fight anybody on that. He makes some good stuff. So then Krusty starts crying because the blessing brings up memories from the old days, specifically his father. And he pulls out a hanky to wipe away his tears, but it's like one of those never-ending hankies for the magic trick, which I thought was hilarious because he's a clown. So, and then as Krusty's crying, I like how Homer's like, hey, Krusty, are you going to finish your meatloaf? Now, here's my question. Did Penny Candy tell Marge that Krusty was Jewish and she just didn't mention it to the family? Or did she mention dietary restrictions that Krusty has? Like, because, Jewish people don't eat pork and they're not supposed to eat pork. They're not supposed to eat shrimp or lobster or crab or venison or, anything with a cloven hoof. Or was it meatloaf night and they just got lucky?
Well, I I am going to go out on a limb and say probably not, based on, as we'll learn with Krusty's choice of sandwich at the diner.
Yeah. He probably doesn't eat. Yeah.
I don't think he keeps kosher at all.
So then, the family encouraged Krusty to talk about, what's bothering him. And he, agrees to it. So we cut back to, or not yet. So Krusty goes, well, my real name's not Krusty the Clown. My real name is Herschel Krastovski. And I want to mention that his name in this episode is spelled two different ways. So yeah, his real name is Herschel Krastovski, which is to be perfectly honest, is a very Jewish name.
Yes, extreme. Well, he got an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. I mean, he's gonna have a pretty Jewish name, and we learned that Krusty comes from a line of rabbis.
My father was a rabbi.
My father's father was a rabbi.
You get the point.
Yes, and we learned that he grew up on the Lower East Side of Springfield. And as they're walking down the street, we see a deli called Tannen's Fatty Meats, which all Jews know, man. You got to have them fatty meats.
And also, this scene is a reference to a scene in The Godfather Part 2 where the characters are walking down the street. I've never seen The Godfather Part 2, so, but it's a reference.
Yeah. And so people ask Krusty's father as they're walking down the street, which his name is Hyman Krastovski. And he's voiced by Jackie Mason, which he does a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't know if Jackie Mason's Jewish, but he's got the voice for it.
Yeah.
He's a very good voice actor.
And one of the questions was like, should I stay in college? Well, yes, of course. And then someone walks up, should I have another kid? And they're like, yes, more people. And he's like, one guy comes up, he's like, should I buy another Chrysler? He's like, I need you to say it in a more ethical way. Is it right to buy a Chrysler? He's like, the great is the car with power steering and Dynaflow suspension.
But here's the thing. I feel like the guy who asked him might have been another rabbi. I guess maybe modern day rabbis drive, but I feel like Orthodox.
Well, I mean, just on Friday. I mean, I used to live in St. Louis Park. I mean, you saw the Orthodox Jews walking all the time, Friday nights and all day Saturday. Yeah, you would see them walking, all around. So
I think I remember a story from when we used to go to temple where not our original rabbi, but like the rabbi that replaced him, like needed a ride somewhere on like a Saturday. Yeah. And like somebody had to give him a ride.
Yeah, there's like designated, Orthodox Jews have designated
drivers.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Or they just walk to temple because they live close enough.
Exactly. Well, most of them do. And so they walk by Yiddles, practical jokes, magic tricks, and medical supplies.
Well, you skipped the part where Krusty asked his dad if he could be a clown.
Oh yeah, so that's right.
And he goes, no.
Yes. So Krusty asked his dad if he could be a clown after everyone else, asked him
and he said yes to everybody.
And he said yes to everyone, but he's told him no. And Krusty wants to make people laugh. And Hyman explains to him, life isn't fun. Life is serious.
You got to have a little joy in your life.
Exactly. Why do you think there's so many Jewish entertainers?
Right?
Yeah. And so they go to Yiddles walk by Yiddles practical jokes, magic tricks, and medical supplies.
You got to be careful with that.
Well, I mean,
you don't want to sell somebody magic tricks when you want to sell them medical supplies.
Yeah, right. And so Hyman wanted obviously Krusty to be a rabbi, but he had the calling of being a clown, and it was just too strong. And so we see a scene where he's making fun of his father during Sunday school, and all the children are laughing, and his father walks in from behind him and strangles him. Which is really awesome because you kind of get the the flip side where Homer is touched about Krusty's story, but then he tells Bart, "You don't have to follow me in my footsteps." And Bart responds,
he doesn't even like to use the bathroom after Homer.
Yeah, he doesn't even like to use bathrooms. And so he strangles him just like Krusty's father strangled him, which I thought was kind of cool. Just a little side,
Bar.
Sidebar thing. Like, what is that? Like, reciprocity almost of two different families.
And so then we cut back to Krusty's house, him telling the story, and he's in the bathroom, and his father wants him to open the door, and so he kicks down the door, and he's got like one of those spray bottles, and he just
it's the seltzer bottles. But I like how I think the whole thing was like, what are you doing in there? It's doing the other thing that boys do in the bathroom. I think that was kind of the joke. And he's like, seltzer's for drinking, not for spraying. Pie is for noshing, not for throwing. Which is true.
Yeah. Well, pie is for throwing.
Okay.
So then, Krusty's telling the Simpsons that he got a gig at a retreat that his father was attending, and his father didn't realize it was him because Krusty was wearing makeup. And he was like, oh yeah, the gig was really going good until a party goer sprayed him in the face with another seltzer bottle, cleaning off the makeup. And that's
funny man.
And that's when Hyman realizes it's Krusty, and he yells at him that he brought shame upon his family.
Yep. And so this is also a movie moment. So the theme of the rabbi's father rejecting his son's choice of entertainment as a career is reminiscent of the film The Jazz Singer.
Yep, that's a lot of the plot was this. And so this is where it kind of comes in. Hyman says he could forgive Krusty if he was a musician or a jazz singer, but not a clown. Because apparently musicians and jazz singers are more respected than clowns.
They're a few steps above clown. It's like
Probably.
it goes musician, jazz singer, clown, mime.
Yeah. So and then Krusty was like, and that's the last time I ever saw my father. So Krusty must have been like 16, 17 when he did that gig.
Yeah.
He had to have been old enough to do it where he, his father abandoned him. And so, now we're back around the Simpsons table, and Bart asks Krusty if he ever thinks about his father. And Krusty goes, all the time, except for when I'm at the horse track. Then it's all business.
Yep.
Because, Krusty gambles. And so we cut to Bart's falling asleep, and Lisa fell asleep, and Milhouse is falling asleep, and Homer's annoyed. And Krusty is looking at pictures of Bart. The first picture we see is his first haircut, where he's screaming because that's what kids do when they get haircuts.
Not my kid.
When they're young. Yeah, your kid.
My kid was good. He just sat there and watched TV and
nice. So, and then the second picture we see is Bart learning how to swim, where Homer just throws him into a pool.
Yep.
Which probably not safe. And then they're at Duff Gardens, where Homer is on a roller coaster holding baby Bart above his head, which I don't know how he got away with bringing baby Bart onto a roller coaster. And because, you figure, Marge would probably be with him. And although the next picture is for first 4th of July, where Homer is drinking a beer while lighting a firework that Bart is holding with Marge sitting in the background.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It kind of paints Marge in a bad light of being a bad parent.
Kind of. Or she just didn't want to pay attention. But I do think it is kind of funny that during all of this is kind of why we learn Krusty, I don't think, wanted to, one, come to the Simpsons house, and two, why he does all this other stuff, because he basically numbs his brain of thinking about his father.
Yeah.
And it all kind of rushed out during this episode.
Yeah, so, Krusty kept the Simpsons and Milhouse up until roughly midnight, which, at around 9 p.m., I don't know if it was a school night or not. I mean, most likely it was maybe a Friday or Saturday, but if I have a guest over and I want them, if they're, they're taking up way too much of my time and I want to go to bed, I would be like, nah, I'm going to bed. Get the hell out of my house. So
get out of the house or sleep on the couch. One of the two.
Yeah. So Marge suggests to Homer to take Milhouse home, and Homer goes gladly because he wants to. And I'm surprised, the Van Houtens didn't call the house and be like, "Hey, where's my son?"
I know, right?
Or why did they just come get him? Or did they not know that Milhouse snuck? Yeah, it's possible Milhouse. Well, no, because, Marge took Milhouse home, so there's no I can't imagine Milhouse told his parents that he was staying over at the Simpsons house for a sleepover, because if he did, he would have just said something to Marge and Homer.
Who, Milhouse?
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I don't know, unless he was just too tired to even realize what was going on anymore.
I mean, it's possible.
And so Bart says sorry about Krusty's dad as he's, exiting the door. And Krusty says, I'm a survivor. And then Krusty asks if he left his keys in the house. And Bart, Lisa, and Marge all scream no. And then shut the door. They're like, nope, you're not. If you cross back into this house again, you're never leaving at that point. So stay outside. So instead of driving home, Krusty walks through the rain past the Springfield X, now playing For Your Thighs Only, Crocodile Done Me, and Dr. Strange Pants. Which I'm guessing.
And for any of our younger listeners out there, don't worry about what this is.
What? No, this is obviously Springfield's X-rated cinema.
That's what I was getting to.
In the seedy part of town. We could tell everyone. They know. They know what they got into when they listened to our podcast.
That's true. My question here is, why didn't he drive? Mr. Teeny's waiting in the car for him. Or did Mr. Teeny hotwire the car and leave?
Yep. That's exactly what. Either that or Krusty did drive back to his house and then go for a walk. We don't necessarily see what happens in the middle. He was probably just depressed. No. I'm guessing he hopped in the car, went back home, got depressed. I was like, I'm going to walk around the city, maybe see
No, because I think he walked around, and then maybe he walked back to the Simpsons and drove home.
No, the Simpsons live too far away from the seedy part of town for that.
I don't know.
So Krusty stops at a magazine stand where they have, a bunch of magazines. Unfortunately this week, I didn't write them all down like I usually do. But there was one titled Modern Jewish Father. And then he starts crying and runs away. And then he ends up at a bus stop watching the mini TVs that they have at the bus stop. And then it stops and he threw a quarter into it and kept it going. And then
like mutants or whatever.
Yeah. And then he calls his father and he does the breathing thing. He's like, what? Who calls and doesn't says hello? Hello? Who's on the other end of this phone? Oi. And then Krusty hangs up. I don't know.
Because he can't talk to his father.
Yeah, it just does. I love how he knows his number still.
That's weird.
That's still nice. I feel like it's nice if you still know your father's
or did he just look
number.
It up in a phone book?
Yeah, that's possible too. I guess. I mean, one of the two things, I guess. And so then we cut back to the kids watching Itchy and Scratchy. And this week we have Field of Screams. Kind of like Field of Dreams, that father-son type thing. But Scratchy is playing catch with the sun in a field, no less. And Itchy and his son are driving them over with a thresher. And then Itchy and his son play catch with Scratchy's head. Aw, how sweet. Wasn't it fun when Itchy's and his son ran Scratchy and his son over with the thrasher? Wasn't that cute? And then I love how this is an episode that Maggie is actually sitting in front of the TV and watching. Usually
I feel like the last episode too, she was watching it as well.
No, it was just Bart. No, it was just Bart and Lisa in the last one.
I'm gonna go back and check, but I'm pretty sure Maggie was there as well.
I think I would have commented like I did on this one.
Okay, so Krusty's in tears, saying how happy everybody looked in the episode, and he's just downtrodden. And Lisa goes, "A man who envies the Simpsons is a man who needs help."
Absolutely,
you're not wrong, sister. Yeah, the Simpsons are a classic case of dysfunction. So Bart and Lisa agree that they need to help Krusty, and they go to Reverend Lovejoy for help, and they ask him to help them find a rabbi without any contact. And Lovejoy's like, wait, we're doing all these things for young Christians, and you don't have to convert to Judaism. And then they tell them, or they ask him, no, we're looking for they're asking for Krusty's father. And Lovejoy and Hyman Krastovski actually host a radio call-in show every Sunday night.
Called Gabbing About God.
And Bart and Lisa are like, what? He's like, where you talk about all this stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, all the kids are talking about it Monday morning at school. And he gives Bart a t-shirt and he's like, we'll throw that on later.
Yeah. Anyway, do you have his address?
Yeah. So Lovejoy's like, let me look at my non-Christian Rolodex. So which implies he has a Christian Rolodex. Isn't that a little anti-Semitic?
I don't know. Well, non-Christian could be Buddhist,
oh, that's
atheist.
True. Atheist. Okay.
Or maybe, Roman Catholic or, nothing that his Christian faith. He has a roll of those and then everyone who's not Christian. So no, I don't think it's...
So then Lovejoy gives Bart and Lisa the address to the synagogue.
Yep.
Temple Beth Springfield, Rabbi Hyman Krastovski, this Saturday, coping with Christmas. So was this around Christmas or is this just the sermon for the day?
Well,
because there's no snow on the ground.
No, it seems like it's just before Halloween. So maybe they're getting people ready for the holiday season. And so they're kind of teaching them how to cope with Christmas.
So then I notice the sign outside spells Krastovski with an I at the end, but the rabbi's door tag thing has it with a Y.
Yeah, and I is the correct one.
Is I the correct one?
Yep, according to The Simpsons, I is the correct one. So my guess it was going to be an animation there. I mean, to be fair, our last name is Skolansky, and there are several times where people will write an I instead of a Y.
Not only that, they put an A after the first K.
Yep. So people spell our name all the time wrong. So I would feel that having Krastovski's name spelled incorrectly is just about as correct. And so Lisa and Bart head inside, and they knock on the door, and Bart's like, we came to talk to you about your son. And Krastovski's like, I have no son. And Bart's like, oh, great. We came all this way and it's the wrong guy. And then he reopens the door. I didn't mean that literally. And then shuts the door again.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was really funny. And so now we cut to KBBL, and the announcer is wearing a fog hat shirt,
which was awesome. And on the back, he has a plaque for the Larry Davis Experience and Bleeding Gums Murphy. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And obviously Larry Davis Experience we've had in like 2 episodes or 3 episodes so far.
Yeah.
And obviously Bleeding Gums Murphy is the local jazz singer in Springfield. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so Krusty calls into the talk show and he just does breathing. Just does the breathing thing again. Who calls the show and it doesn't talk, and and then he hangs up because he didn't want to talk to him again. And so then Bart calls the show. He's like, long time listener, first time caller.
His name is
Dimitri, and asks if a son who defies his father and chooses a career that makes millions of kids happy, shouldn't that father forgive his son? And I like how Lovejoy and the other guests say yes, but Hyman's like, no, who is this? What are you talking about? Just because obviously the Bart and Lisa are trying to get the rabbi to really
forgive
Krusty. So Bart dresses up like a rabbi to confront Hyman about forgiving Krusty, and so he goes to interrupts him at the chess when a bunch of rabbis are sitting around playing chess, talking.
No, they were just talking. Yeah.
Well, no, they were playing chess too. There was a chess table and everything. And then Bart gets back to the bed, and he's like, "Oi, this guy is tough."
And so Lisa's like, "Well, he's smart."
Yep. And so Lisa comes up with an idea to trick Hyman into meeting up with his son with a promise to meet Nobel Prize winning novelist Saul Bellow, who is Jewish.
So then Bart calls Krusty to tell him that the French government wants to give him the Legion of Honor medal, whatever the heck that is. And Krusty is like, all right, where do I go? Izzy's Deli? Got it. And so they go to Izzy's Deli, which is a Jewish deli because if you look at the menu, there is Hebrew on the front.
Yep.
And by the way, not to be biased or anything, but Jewish delis are the best delis. Bart and Lisa are waiting for Krusty, and Hyman's already there, and he kind of, wants to order. I didn't really think the waitress sounded like Doris, but maybe she did.
Yeah, she had
It might have been the same voice actress.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But she had a lunch lady Doris sound.
Yeah.
She sounded just like it. And the diner itself, to me, reminded me of like the Seinfeld diner. Did it not?
It's just a diner.
I know.
I don't know.
But Seinfeld.
This was way before Seinfeld.
No, it wasn't.
Though.
Seinfeld came out in '89.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
It aired 2 years before. Well, I guess a year before The Simpsons aired. I mean, it had the Tracy Ullman stuff, but it aired. First episode aired in 1989. That's why I thought it was. I mean, when I saw it, I had to look up when Seinfeld aired, but when the diner just gave that Seinfeld vibe, just the way it looked.
Man, I think it's just a diner.
No, I think they were trying to go for it.
I don't believe you. And so the waitress asked Bart and Lisa if they're ready to order, and they're like, we'll just have some more complimentary pickles.
Yeah, Jewish delis always have complimentary pickles, don't they?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't normally. I mean, I live in Green Bay. We don't have any Jewish delis here. There's no Jews here. And so she goes to Hyman and she's like, well, what do you want? And there's a sandwich named after Jackie Mason. And then Bruce Willis, he's like, I don't even like his work. And he's like, well, what's a Krusty the Clown? And a Krusty the Clown is ham, sausage, and bacon with a splash of mayo on white bread. And there is no way a Jewish deli would serve this.
Nope. And the funny thing is, I looked it up just because I was very, very curious. There is no sandwich anywhere for Bruce Willis. Oh. And I didn't look up Jackie Mason, but I wonder if because he was a guest, he actually does have a sandwich and he thought it'd be funny to have his name included.
Maybe.
I didn't look that up. I didn't think about looking that up because I really wanted to know if Bruce Willis had a sandwich named after him, which he doesn't.
I mean, he might somewhere, and it's.
I mean, I googled it. I googled all sorts of ways to type it, and I did not see a Bruce Willis sandwich anywhere.
So the Bart and Lisa. So
that failed.
Hyman realizes Saul Bellow isn't coming, so he leaves, and Krusty shows up, and the kids are like, we didn't get it.
But the waitress is like, do you think you're funny? He's like, can you point me to the French Prime Minister? He's like, do you think you're funny? Well, 50,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong.
You're wrong. So then Lisa and Bart decide to go to the library to see if they can use Jewish passages from the Old Testament to outsmart Hyman, and Alberto is on the steps to the library
because Lisa was like, what's one thing that rabbis prize above anything else? Those stupid hats. No, Bart. Yeah. Knowledge. We're gonna hit him where it hurts, right in the Judaica.
And so we go to the library, and Lisa's readings has books titled "The Big Book of the Chosen People," "Jewishness Revisited," and "Views on Jews." And Bart's looking at like an Old Testament book. Yes. It's a pop-up book. Oh, save me, Noah.
And then he's like, the flood's coming. Oh, that was great. That was awesome. No.
And so Lisa sends Bart out to talk to the rabbi, and not Lisa. And my assumption is that they did this because in the Orthodox religion, women are more subservient to men. I don't know if that's common in the modern Orthodox Jewish religion. Because obviously, I mean, our cousin had an Orthodox bar mitzvah where it was divided by a cloth down the center, where on one side were the men and the other side were the women and smaller children. So I'm wondering if they had Bart kind of talk to the rabbi because Bart is the quote unquote man and Lisa's a woman.
That's possible.
So I kind of, and I figured, Hyman would be more acceptable.
Yeah.
Well, acceptable to listening to Bart and not necessarily Lisa.
But yeah, I like how he interrupts them at the sweat lodge with all the other rabbis. Yep.
And he interrupts them at a bris.
Well, yeah, that's a good. I like how he's like, "This is not the time or the place for this."
Oh my god, it's just, and all like the different passages. I don't know any. I didn't write down any of the passages, but Rabbi Krastovski had a rebuttal for all of them.
Oh, yeah. And so Lisa gives Bart one last note saying that it's all that she could do without learning ancient Hebrew. And Bart stays, and Lisa tells him that she's not learning ancient Hebrew.
And to be honest, she could probably learn it pretty easily. She's smart.
Yeah, right.
It took me a few years to learn regular Hebrew.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard language to learn. It's a hard language to speak. Yeah.
I mean, once you learn it, it's pretty easy. I could probably still read Hebrew, but speak it, I could say hello and goodbye.
Yeah, that's about it. Shalom.
Yeah, it's the same word.
Exactly. So then Bart quotes Sammy Davis Jr. to convince Rabbi to make up with Krusty. It was a really good quote. He was like, "Who said that?" And like he lists a bunch of rabbis and like smart people, and he's like, Sammy Davis Jr., an entertainer, just like your son. He's like, he said that?
The Candyman?
The Candyman? Well, if he could write so beautiful words, maybe my son's not so bad. And so Krusty opens up his show, and he's like just kind of beating at the round circle.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this, and kind of bust through.
Hey kids, welcome to the Krusty the Clown show.
Yep, and Lisa and Bart bring Hyman to Krusty's show to make up, and Krusty tries to. So then he goes backstage. He's like, "Oh, I'll just roll a cartoon," and so he's backstage and he sees his dad back there.
Well, he's smoking. He's like, "Oh, that's not a good habit." Well, who are you? And he walks out of the shadows to show that he's his father.
Yep, and he's like, all right. And so they kind of Krusty runs back on stage to try and introduce his father. And the guy, it's like, "Spotlight, please." And he's like, I like to,
guys, I'm not doing the spotlight bit.
And so the curtains open and we see Krusty's band, apparently. I didn't know Krusty had a band.
Krusty and the K-Tums?
K-Tums? K-T-U-M-S? K-Tums?
K-Tums?
I don't know what that means, but...
I got me.
So Krusty and his father start singing. Well, Krusty starts singing.
Papa.
Yep. And
by the way, that song is on the official Simpsons CD soundtrack.
Ooh.
Yes.
So go buy that.
We have it.
Yeah, probably.
No, we do. I have all the songs from the two soundtracks on my computer.
Nice.
That's one of them.
And so Krusty starts singing and his father starts singing because Krusty's like, "Oh, you know the words." And so they start singing it. And Mo and Barney are at the bar watching and Mo tears up. He's like, "It's okay. I just got something in my eye." And Barney offers him his hanky, which is like covered in snot and stuff.
Oh. And Mo's like, "Ugh, no."
And then so the song ends and then Krusty's like, "If we haven't seen each other in 25 years, good night, everyone."
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And so, I mean, it's crazy not to see anyone, let alone your father, for 25 years.
Well, and the show ends with Krusty and father saying they love each other. And we see Bart handing a pie to Hyman. And Hyman takes the pie and throws it in Krusty's face. And they say goodnight.
Yeah.
And it's such a feel-good ending.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a good way to end the show. I mean, a strange son, a strange father finally coming together after 25 years and making up.
Yeah. And obviously, I think it's really great to have a Jewish character in any show.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with The Simpsons early on, kind of, we have the whole Christian side of everything. Simpsons go to church, and it's kind of cool to add a new religion into The Simpsons. And later on, we add another
Buddhism
religion.
And whatever Apu is he Hindu?
Hindu, yep. And so we kind of, over the course of these first 10 seasons, you really kind of get the mix of what's going on in Springfield. So it's really cool that they decided to go this route with this episode and, give a little backstory on Krusty too, just because we always want to learn. So to me, final thoughts on the episode. I absolutely loved it. I mean, this is a great episode from start to finish. There's the cool thing with this one. There's really no B story. It's all A. It's all this is Krusty's life, and it's kind of cool to have a Krusty centric episode again.
Yeah,
kind of like
the first one. Oh, it's the second one.
Second one. Yep, it's kind of cool to have this sort of thing, and I'm going with 5. Everything's Coming Up Millhouse, just because I love how it goes from Krusty being kind of a loner and this is his life to ending a lot more open. And the weird thing is, I know he still does stupid stuff.
I was gonna say that,
but I think it at least fulfills his life a little bit more to know that he has his father back in his life and can possibly go to him. I'm sure no one just makes up overnight. Like families that break up never make up overnight. But I think it's a really good way to say, okay, Krusty has his father back in his life and he approves of his life. Maybe not every aspect of his life, but he approves of what he does for a living. And so I think this is good for Krusty.
I really enjoy this episode. The jokes are there. The story is really good. I mean, as a kid growing up Jewish, it's something, not the estrangement from my father, because obviously I still talk to my father, but just like the Jewish aspect of this episode really kind of brings me back with the diner. Like whenever we go to Chicago, we always go to the deli. We always go to a deli to get our corned beef sandwiches for our baseball game. And just, it's so good. And the elements are really well done and thought out. And the fact they got rabbis to consult on this episode really shows that they wanted to do right by this episode. And having, Krusty be the center a little bit, take away from the Simpsons. And for the Simpsons, I feel like that's something they need to do every few episodes, is to, especially in these earlier seasons, you want to focus a lot of attention to the Simpsons and grow them as characters, but you also want to grow your other characters. So I think this is a really good spot coming up to an episode next week that's essentially non-canon of the Simpsons.
Yep.
Or is it? I mean, Kodos and Kang, I think, appear in a regular episode somewhere down the line. Maybe. I don't remember, but it's a really good episode. The theme is really good. And I pose this question to our listeners. Are you estranged from a family member, not necessarily your dad? And were you able to reconcile? Hopefully some of our listeners out there who've ever been in that situation have been able to, say, look, mistakes were made. I forgive you. And they've made up. Maybe your relationship isn't great, but it's better than not being estranged. Like I honestly don't know what my life would be like, or our lives would be like, if we were estranged from our parents.
Yeah. It'd be kind of weird.
It'd be really weird. So no, great episode. I give it a 5. Everything's Coming Up Millhouse. Fantastic. And I look forward to talking next week about more Halloween stuff.
Yeah. And so let's finish off the beginning part of the episode with our character profile. And this week is our wonderful Rabbi Krastovski. And his occupation, rabbi and thinker.
They're rabbis are very philosophical.
They are. Special gift, can solve any problem as long as it is posed as an ethical question.
Again, philosopher.
Yep. Diversions, chess in the park, Talmudic conferences in the Catskills.
And that's where Krusty got found out he was a clown by his father.
Yep. His dislikes, entertainers as immediate family members, people who call and hang up without saying anything. I mean,
to be fair, that second one.
Yes, that kind of irks me.
Yeah.
Or even when it's phone calls, when people do start talking and it's spam and garbage, I get angry too.
By the way, I've been trying to reach you about your extended car warranty.
Yeah, I know. And then his philosophy: life is not fun. Life is serious.
Life is so fun. You gotta have fun.
Yeah,
I think Rabbi Krastovski learns by the end of the episode that you gotta have some fun in your life. You can't just be serious all the time.
Well, yeah, you gotta live it up a little bit. I mean, why do you think people think that I'm still in my 20s? Because I live it up.
Well, you still act like you're in your 20s.
Exactly. If I still act like I'm in my 20s, people think I'm in my 20s.
Except you're going to be 38 this year.
Yeah. Well, 38 last week. For those of you.
38 last week. You're right.
Yeah. So those of you that have been paying attention, I had my birthday when the episode came out last week. So
yeah.
All right. So before I close off with all our funness, I just want to give a shout out. And The Simpsons did it. Thank you for the life of Cloris Leachman, who we talked about a few weeks ago in 3 Men in a Comic Book when she
just passed away about a month ago.
She was the voice of Mrs. Glick.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to say she had an amazing career. Young Frankenstein was probably one of the best movies. I know you pointed out you liked her in Beer Fest.
Beer Fest. She was also the grandmother in Malcolm in the Middle.
Yep.
She was amazing. Her comedic timing was great. I think she started out on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
She did,
as like the neighbor, and she just like she was so funny. I mean, she was 94.
Yep.
So, I mean, she obviously lived a nice long life. Still sad, but yeah.
So I just wanted to say, amazing life she had, and I hope her work lives on forever. So. You can find us on Facebook, The Simpsons Did It Podcast, on Instagram, The Simpsons Did It Pod, on Twitter, Simpsons Did It PC. You can also see basically a video copy of our podcast over on YouTube, The Simpsons Did It Podcast. Just type that in and search by channel. And
please subscribe so we can get our own link.
Another cool thing that I just found out is every time someone says, play Simpsons Did It podcast on your Alexa. So if you say, hey Alexa, play the Simpsons Did It podcast, I get updates on how many people do that. And right now we're at 3% of our listeners are listening on their Alexa devices, which I think is totally cool that someone is literally telling their Alexa to play our show.
That's awesome.
I just want to say that is like one of the coolest things that I can think of right now. So thank you, everyone who's talking to your Alexa. And if you did not know you could do that, just say, hey, Alexa, play Simpsons Did It podcast. And voila, it'll show up. It'll be the newest episode. So just to let you know, if you are doing that, it will be the newest episode that we recorded. But you can go to your Alexa and choose the episode that you want to listen to as well. So if you'd like to support us, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/Simpsons Did It. And you can buy us a duff. Donate 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you guys want. You don't have to donate a lot. But all the money that you do donate is going to go to merch and gifts and prizes and stuff like that. So the more supporters we get, the sooner we can get everything out to you guys. So until next time, I'm Steven Sklansky.
Shalom, everybody. I'm your co-host, Robert Skolansky.
And this has been The Simpsons Did It.
Shh.